He said I was just waiting to die, so I spent my last savings on the one goodbye he can never take back. When my nephew Marcus hung up on me after stealing my life savings, he made one final mistake. He laughed. He actually laughed and said, "Aunt Maya, you're 72 and just waiting to die anyway. What do you need $127,000 for? I'm young. I have plans." Well, I had plans too, and they were about to cost him $581,000. See, Marcus thought being 72 made me helpless. He thought my grief over losing my husband made me weak. He thought stealing from a retired nurse would be easy money with zero consequences. He was dead wrong on all counts. 3 months earlier, I'd walked into First National Bank to pay my property taxes and discovered my life savings had vanished. 43 years of 12-hour shifts in Detroit emergency rooms, every overtime dollar saved, every sacrifice I'd made, gone. My account showed $847 where there should have been $127,847. Marcus had been helping me with paperwork after William died. I trusted him because he was family, my sister's boy who'd hit hard times. I gave him power of attorney to help pay bills while I grieved, thinking he was being kind. I was thinking like a trusting aunt. I should have been thinking like a nurse who'd seen every kind of predator walk through those hospital doors. When I confronted him, when I asked where my money went, that's when he laughed. That's when he told me I was just waiting to die anyway. Then he hung up on me like I was nothing. That night, sitting in William's chair, I made a decision. Marcus wanted to see what a 72-year-old woman waiting to die looked like. I was about to show him what one looked like when she was fighting to live, and honey, he had no idea what he'd just unleashed. The next morning, I did what any good nurse would do. I diagnosed the problem systematically. 43 years in healthcare teaches you that every symptom has a cause, and every cause leaves evidence. Marcus had been sloppy, probably because he thought I was too old and trusting to fight back. I drove to First National Bank and requested every statement from the past 2 years. The young teller, bless her heart, tried to talk me through online banking. "Mrs. Johnson, you could access all this from home," I smiled sweetly. "Honey, I want paper copies. Old habits die hard." What I didn't tell her was that paper trails win court cases. Back home, I spread everything across William's old desk. The pattern was clear as day. Small withdrawals at first, $200 here, $500 there. Then it escalated. In the past 6 months, Marcus had written himself checks for everything from car payments to what looked like gambling debts. The man had used my grief as his personal ATM. But here's what Marcus didn't know about his waiting to die aunt. I'd spent 4 decades keeping meticulous medical records. Documentation was second nature to me. Every conversation we'd had about my finances, I'd written down in my daily planner. Dates, times, what was said. Nurses learn early that if it's not documented, it didn't happen. I called my insurance company and discovered Marcus had also tried to borrow against my life insurance policy. He'd been denied because he wasn't the beneficiary, but the attempt was recorded. This wasn't just theft. It was systematic exploitation. He'd planned to leave me with nothing, assuming I'd be too confused or scared to fight back. That's when I realized I wasn't just fighting for my money. I was fighting for every elderly person who'd been dismissed, discounted, and discarded by someone they trusted. The next morning, I made 3 phone calls that would change everything. The first was to Diane Washington, a former colleague from the hospital who'd gone to law school in her 50s. Diane specialized in elder abuse cases now, and her reputation was fierce. When I explained the situation, Her voice turned ice-cold professional. "Maya, this is textbook financial elder abuse. Michigan law is very clear. What Marcus did is a felony. But more importantly, we can get every penny back, plus damages, plus attorney fees. How fast can you get to my office?" The second call was to Patricia Mills, a private investigator I'd met through Diane's cases. Patricia had helped several of my former patients recover stolen assets. Her specialty was uncovering hidden assets and documenting fraud. "Don't touch anything else," she warned. "Don't confront him again. Don't let him know we're investigating. Predators get dangerous when cornered." The third call was to my neighbor and longtime friend, Rose Henderson. Rose had been watching this unfold and was furious. "Maya, I told you that boy was trouble from day one, but don't you worry, I've got your back. Whatever you need, whenever you need it." By noon, I was sitting in Diane's downtown office, surrounded by legal books and case files. She reviewed my documentation with the focused intensity I remembered from our nursing days. "This is excellent record keeping, Maya. Most people don't have half this evidence. We can file both criminal charges and a civil lawsuit." Patricia spread Marcus's social media photos across the table. Expensive vacations, new car, designer clothes, all posted while he was stealing from me. He's been broadcasting his spending spree online. This is going to be like shooting fish in a barrel. I looked at these two strong women who were ready to go to war for me, then at Rose, who'd driven me here and stayed for moral support. For the first time in months, I felt powerful instead of powerless. Marcus had picked the wrong old lady to underestimate. Patricia's investigation exploded with revelations that made my blood boil. Within 48 hours, she'd uncovered a criminal empire built on my grief. Marcus hadn't just stolen my savings, he'd turned my entire financial life into his personal playground. "Maya, sit down," Patricia said, spreading evidence across my kitchen table. "This is worse than we thought." The credit cards I thought were locked away? He'd racked up $23,000 in Vegas weekends and designer clothes. My house? The home William and I had paid off over 30 years? Marcus had tried to refinance it behind my back, nearly putting my shelter at risk. But then Patricia played me something that changed everything. A recording from Marcus's favorite bar, where he was bragging to his buddy about his brilliant scheme. "She trusted me completely," his voice crackled through the speaker, dripping with contempt. "These old people are so desperate not to be alone, they'll sign anything. She probably won't even live long enough to miss the money anyway." The room went silent. Rose grabbed my hand. Patricia's jaw tightened. That's when I realized this wasn't just theft. It was a bet. Marcus had gambled on my death and lost. Now I was going to collect every penny he owed, with interest that would destroy him. "Patricia," I said, my voice steady as a steel, "I want to know every illegal thing this boy has done, every lie, every theft, every scheme, because we're not just getting my money back, we're making sure he never does this to another family again." Diane's strategy was surgical. We froze Marcus's assets so fast his head spun, bank accounts locked, fancy car impounded, credit cards dead. The sheriff served him papers while he was planning another vacation with my money. According to Patricia's surveillance photos, his face went white as a sheet. But we'd only begun to destroy him. "Maya, we've got federal tax fraud too," Diane announced with a predator's smile. "He claimed you as a dependent for 2 years, collecting refunds he wasn't entitled to. The IRS is very interested in prosecuting this." Patricia had uncovered Marcus's Ponzi scheme within our own family. He'd borrowed from cousin James, promising to invest it in my portfolio, then use that money to cover gambling debts while stealing from me to pay James back. The paper trail was devastating. Bank records, emails, phone logs showing months of planned exploitation. Marcus had researched power of attorney laws, looking for loopholes to drain my accounts. But here's what made me smile. Rose had been secretly documenting every visit, every manipulative comment, every time he made me feel too old to understand finances. Her witness testimony would prove the psychological abuse that accompanied his theft. The most damning evidence, Marcus's internet searches, elderly financial capacity, contesting wills, guardianship procedures. This wasn't desperate gambling addiction. This was calculated predation. By week 2, our case was bulletproof. Marcus could either plead to reduce charges now or face the full weight of federal prosecution later. Either way, he was about to learn that underestimating a 72-year-old woman was the most expensive mistake of his pathetic life. Just when I thought our case couldn't get deadlier, Marcus's ex-girlfriend, Jessica, handed us a nuclear weapon. She'd been secretly recording his conversations for months, planning her own escape from his increasingly abusive behavior. He was going to have you declared mentally incompetent, Jessica revealed during her deposition, her voice shaking with anger. He said old people don't need privacy anyway, and he was researching nursing homes to dump you in. The evidence she brought was devastating. Text messages where Marcus bragged about inheritance money while I was still alive, photos of expensive purchases made with my stolen funds, and most damning, a recorded phone call where he discussed selling my house after getting me committed. "She's getting forgetful," his voice played back through Jessica's phone. "I could probably convince a judge she needs a guardian. These old bitches are so grateful for attention, they never question anything." Diane's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. "This escalates everything, Maya. Attempted guardianship fraud is a separate felony. This shows he planned to strip you of every right you had." But Jessica's most shocking revelation, Marcus had pressured her to marry him quickly so she couldn't testify against him as his wife. When she refused, he'd become violent, which is why she'd started recording everything. The picture was now complete. Marcus hadn't just planned to steal my money, he'd planned to steal my entire life, my freedom, my dignity, then warehouse me in some nursing home while he sold everything William and I had built together. That night, I sat in William's chair and realized Marcus had made one fatal miscalculation. He'd confused my kindness for weakness, my trust for stupidity. Now, he was about to discover that 72-year-old women who'd spent decades saving lives in emergency rooms don't break easily. We fight back. When we filed our lawsuit, Marcus's world imploded in spectacular fashion. His desperate voicemail started immediately, first pleading, then threatening, finally revealing his true nature. "You're being manipulated by lawyers who just want your money," he whined in one message. "You're too trusting, Aunt Maya. Don't let them take advantage of you." I played that recording for Diane, who burst out laughing. "He's literally accusing us of what he did to you. The irony is beautiful, and it's more evidence of his continued manipulation." But Marcus's real panic showed in his frantic attempts to hide assets. Patricia caught him trying to sell the car he'd bought with my money, attempting to withdraw cash from frozen accounts, transferring property to friends. Every move created more evidence of guilt. The criminal charges hit like a sledgehammer. Detective Martinez told me Marcus's scheme was more sophisticated than most family theft cases. This wasn't opportunistic crime. This was researched, planned exploitation with multiple fraud elements. Then came the media attention. A local reporter had picked up the story, and when they played Marcus's recording about me waiting to die, Detroit exploded with outrage. His employer fired him immediately. His apartment complex began eviction proceedings. The most satisfying moment? His former friends and family members started calling, realizing they'd been conned too. Cousin James filed his own lawsuit after discovering Marcus had never invested his money as promised. Marcus tried one last manipulation tactic, calling family members to claim I had dementia and was being exploited by predatory lawyers. But Jessica's recordings had already been shared, and his credibility was destroyed. The man who'd laughed about me, waiting to die, now looked like he was the one giving up on life, and we were just getting started. The news story about Marcus stealing from his grieving aunt while laughing about me waiting to die went viral. By Friday morning, Detroit was talking about nothing else. The reporter had included statistics about elder abuse that shocked even me. $3.6 billion stolen from seniors annually, with family members as perpetrators 60% of the time. But what really destroyed Marcus was hearing his own voice broadcast across the city, laughing about exploiting his elderly aunt. The community backlash was swift and merciless. His apartment complex posted eviction notices after seeing the news coverage. His gym revoked his membership. Even his barber refused to serve him. Detroit had collectively decided that Marcus Johnson was persona non grata. Our church community rallied around me in ways that brought tears to my eyes. Pastor Williams asked me to speak to the congregation about predators who target seniors. This isn't just about money, I told them. It's about remembering that age doesn't make us disposable. The most satisfying revenge came naturally. Marcus's own behavior had made him radioactive in our community. No job prospects, no social circle, no girlfriend, no family support. He'd burned every bridge while stealing from me. But the sweetest justice was watching him at the courthouse during pre-trial hearings. The swagger was gone. The expensive clothes had been replaced with thrift store outfits. The man who'd mocked my mortality now looked like a corpse himself. Patricia showed me surveillance photos of him looking haggard and desperate as he met with public defenders. Maya, he's lost everything: job, home, relationships, reputation, and we haven't even gotten to trial yet. I smiled, thinking about how he'd assumed my age made me helpless. Marcus was about to learn that the most dangerous thing you can do is underestimate a woman who spent decades making life and death decisions under pressure. 3 weeks later, Marcus's public defender crawled to us with a pathetic settlement offer. Marcus would plead guilty and pay back the $127,000 plus $50,000 in damages if we'd agree to reduce charges. Absolutely not, I told Diane without hesitation. Under Michigan law, we're entitled to treble damages, $381,000 plus attorney fees, and that doesn't include the federal tax fraud charges. His lawyer tried painting Marcus as a gambling addict who'd made desperate decisions. I wasn't buying it. Diane, what message does accepting this settlement send to other predators who target seniors? That it's profitable crime with minimal consequences, she replied grimly. Then we go to trial. I want every dollar the law allows, and I want it on public record that stealing from elderly people will cost you everything. The next week, Marcus's situation got even worse. His girlfriend had thrown him out, his car was repossessed, and he was living in a studio apartment his mother was paying for. The family members he'd conned were demanding their money back, and no one would hire him with pending felony charges. His lawyer made one final desperate attempt, full treble damages spread over 10 years. Again, we rejected it. Marcus had demanded immediate access to my life savings. He'd receive no such courtesy. Maya, Patricia told me, I've worked dozens of these cases. Most victims settle because they're exhausted, but predators count on that fatigue. They know even if caught, they'll face minimal consequences. Not this time. Marcus was about to face the full weight of the law and learn that underestimating a 72-year-old former nurse was the most expensive mistake of his miserable life. Trial was set for 6 weeks out, and I was ready for war. Diane transformed into a legal assassin as trial approached. Her preparation was surgical: witness lists, evidence timelines, multimedia presentations that would make Marcus's systematic theft crystal clear to any jury. Maya, you're going to be an exceptional witness, she told me during preparation. You're credible, sharp, and you remember details like a medical chart. Juries love witnesses who speak clearly about facts without getting emotional. But I wasn't preparing to be a victim telling a sad story. I was preparing to be a competent 72-year-old woman demonstrating that age equals experience, not helplessness. Patricia had created a devastating multimedia presentation matching Marcus's social media photos with my bank statements. Expensive dinners on the same nights as withdrawals from my accounts, Vegas vacations funded by my retirement savings, designer clothes bought with my credit cards. Jessica was nervous about facing Marcus in court, so I took her aside. Honey, that man stole from me while I was grieving my husband, then laughed about it. If you don't speak up now, he'll do this to someone else's grandmother. Her resolve strengthened immediately. She realized she wasn't just testifying for me, she was speaking for every elderly person who'd been dismissed and financially abused. The most powerful evidence remained Marcus's recorded voice, laughing about me waiting to die. Diane planned to play it at the perfect moment during cross-examination, when the jury hears those words, while looking at you sitting strong in that witness chair. The case will be over. The night before trial, Rose brought dinner and asked if I was nervous. Not nervous, I told her. Ready. I've been ready since the moment he hung up on me after stealing my life savings. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about proving that seniors aren't disposable victims. The courthouse was packed with supporters, family, and news cameras. Marcus shrank into his chair as the cameras focused on him. The confident predator had become a cornered rat. Diane's opening statement was masterful. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus Johnson didn't just steal money from his 72-year-old aunt. He weaponized her grief and love against her. He researched how to exploit elderly people, then executed that plan while she was mourning her husband's death. She walked the jury through the timeline with surgical precision, showing how Marcus's thefts escalated as my vulnerability increased. The defendant saw Maya Johnson not as family to protect, but as an opportunity to exploit. Marcus's public defender tried the desperate gambling addiction defense, arguing this was a family dispute gone wrong. But when he suggested I was confused about finances and had willingly given Marcus access, several jurors' faces hardened. They were looking at me sitting sharp-eyed and straight-backed in the courtroom, clearly not a confused elderly woman needing financial guidance. That afternoon, Diane began systematically destroying Marcus with evidence. Bank records, forged signatures, unauthorized charges. Each piece built an undeniable picture of calculated theft. The courtroom gasped when she displayed Marcus's social media photos alongside my bank statements. Vegas vacation photos matched with withdrawals from my accounts on identical dates. Expensive restaurant selfies funded by my credit cards. The theft became viscerally, undeniably real. Marcus's face grew paler with each exhibit. This wasn't going anything like he'd expected. During recess, Detective Martinez told me, "Mrs. Johnson, I've testified in hundreds of these cases. Usually, victims look defeated. You look like someone ready for war." That's exactly what I was. When I took the witness stand, 43 years of professional composure settled over me like armor. I wasn't a confused elderly victim. I was Maya Johnson, former emergency room nurse, and I had something to say. Diane walked me through my background, establishing that I was a competent woman who'd managed complex medical crises and handled my finances successfully for decades. "Mrs. Johnson, why did you give Marcus access to your accounts?" After William died, I was overwhelmed with grief and paperwork. Marcus offered to help, and I trusted him because he was family. My voice was steady, professional. I thought he was being kind. "When did you discover the theft?" "When I tried to pay property taxes and found my savings account reduced from $127,847 to $847. I'd been carefully maintaining that balance throughout my retirement. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. "Mrs. Johnson, please tell the jury what Marcus said during your final conversation." I looked directly at the jury, my voice clear and strong. "He said I was 72 and just waiting to die anyway, so what did I need all that money for? He said he was young with plans and a future." I paused, letting that sink in. Then he hung up on me. Several jurors visibly recoiled. I could see them looking at Marcus with disgust. During cross-examination, his lawyer made a fatal mistake. "Mrs. Johnson, isn't it possible you forgot giving Marcus permission for these withdrawals?" I straightened in my chair. "Sir, I spent 43 years tracking medications, dosages, and treatment schedules in life or death situations. I documented every detail because people's lives depended on accuracy. Do you really think I'm too confused to understand my own bank account?" The courtroom actually chuckled. I saw the defense attorney realize he'd just reinforced my competence instead of undermining it. Patricia's testimony was surgical. She dissected Marcus's financial crimes with the precision of a pathologist, showing the jury every withdrawal, every forged signature, every unauthorized charge. In 15 years investigating financial crimes, I've rarely seen such systematic exploitation. This wasn't impulsive theft. The defendant researched methods to maximize access while minimizing detection. She revealed Marcus's internet search history, power of attorney limitations, elderly financial capacity, contesting wills. This was premeditated predation, not desperate gambling decisions. But the moment that destroyed Marcus was when Diane played his recorded voice from the bar, laughing about me, waiting to die. The courtroom fell dead silent, except for his cruel laughter echoing through the speakers. Several jurors looked disgusted. One elderly woman shook her head in visible anger as Marcus's own words convicted him. Jessica's testimony brought the emotional manipulation into sharp focus. She described his plans to have me declared incompetent, his research into nursing homes, his intention to sell my house. He said elderly people don't need privacy anyway, and Maya was too grateful for attention to question anything. He was proud of how easy it was to manipulate her grief. During cross-examination, Marcus's lawyer tried discrediting Jessica as a scorned ex-girlfriend, but her extensive recordings and documentation were ironclad. Then came Marcus's turn to testify, and it was a disaster. Under Diane's cross-examination, he contradicted himself repeatedly, claiming he'd intended to pay me back while having no documentation of any loan agreements. The fatal moment, when asked about having me declared incompetent, he said, "I never seriously planned that." Diane immediately played Jessica's recording of him researching guardianship procedures. His credibility was obliterated when his own lawyer asked if he regretted his actions. Marcus slipped, "I regret getting caught." That slip revealed everything. Not a gambling addict who'd made mistakes, but a predator who only regretted exposure. The jury deliberated for exactly 47 minutes. When they returned, the elderly forewoman, who'd been disgusted by Marcus's recording, stood with obvious satisfaction. On all charges of financial elder abuse, fraud, and identity theft, guilty. Marcus visibly crumpled as each verdict hit him like a physical blow. The man who'd laughed about my death looked like he was facing his own. But the civil verdict was where I got my sweetest revenge. The jury awarded treble damages, $381,000, plus attorney fees. Then they added $200,000 in punitive damages for Marcus's callous disregard for the victim's dignity. Judge Williams addressed Marcus before sentencing. "You targeted your elderly aunt during her most vulnerable period, weaponized her grief against her, then mocked her mortality when confronted." This court sees no mitigating factors whatsoever. 5 years in prison, full restitution of $581,000, federal tax fraud charges still pending. After the verdict, reporters surrounded me asking how it felt to win. I looked directly into the cameras. This isn't revenge, it's justice. No elderly person should be treated as disposable by someone they trust. Age doesn't make us helpless, it makes us experienced. That evening, Rose hosted a celebration dinner. Diane, Patricia, Jessica, and family who'd supported me were there. Raising our glasses, I realized this victory was about more than recovered money. It was about dignity reclaimed. Marcus had called me just waiting to die. Instead, I'd shown him what it looked like when someone truly lived, with courage, determination, and absolute refusal to be anyone's victim. The scared woman who discovered her empty bank account was gone. In her place stood Maya Johnson, survivor, fighter, advocate for every senior who'd been told they didn't matter. The $581,000 judgment transformed my life in ways Marcus never could have imagined. But money wasn't the most important thing I'd gained. It was the rediscovery of my own power. Diane and I had forged a friendship that extended far beyond attorney-client relations. She invited me to speak at legal conferences about elder abuse, sharing my story with lawyers nationwide. "Maya, you're the perfect spokesperson because you refuse to be a victim. Most clients are too traumatized to even testify effectively." Patricia offered me consulting work on her elder abuse cases. My nursing background gave me insights into how predators identified vulnerable seniors, and my communication skills helped connect with clients too ashamed to seek help initially. But the most meaningful development was the flood of letters from elderly people who'd seen my story. Dozens wrote sharing their own experiences with financial exploitation, many for the first time. Each letter reinforced my conviction that Marcus's betrayal was part of a much larger fight. I used my settlement strategically. First, I established an emergency legal fund for seniors who couldn't afford to fight financial abuse. Too many elderly people were defenseless against exploiters simply due to cost. Second, I funded financial literacy programs at senior centers, teaching older adults to recognize and prevent exploitation. Retired accountants and bank officials volunteered to educate their peers. My house, which Marcus had tried to steal through refinancing, became my fortress of independence. I renovated Williams' Den into a command center where I coordinated elder advocacy cases and worked with other seniors fighting back. The physical changes were important, but the internal transformation was profound. I'd rediscovered the strength that 43 years of emergency nursing had built. Marcus's theft had temporarily shaken my confidence, but recovering from it made me stronger than ever. 6 months after trial, I received a call from Michigan Health and Human Services. They were developing new elder abuse investigation protocols and wanted my input as someone who'd successfully fought back. "Mrs. Johnson," the director told me, "your case has become the model for how these investigations should work. More importantly, your public speaking has encouraged hundreds of other victims to come forward." That's when I realized my true calling, being a voice for elderly people silenced by predators who counted on their shame and isolation. I started speaking at community centers, churches, and senior facilities across Michigan. My message was consistent. Age doesn't make you helpless, and being victimized doesn't make you powerless. Every person deserves dignity and financial security regardless of age. The response was overwhelming. After each presentation, seniors approached me privately, sharing their own exploitation stories. Adult children stealing from parents, caregivers accessing bank accounts, financial advisors taking advantage of clients with early dementia. The stories were heartbreaking, but consistent. With Diane and Patricia, I established a resource network for elder abuse victims. We created informational materials, developed screening tools to help recognize exploitation, and maintain databases of specialized attorneys. But the most rewarding work was one-on-one counseling with victims. Many felt stupid, embarrassed, and helpless after being financially abused. They needed to hear from someone their age who'd faced similar challenges and fought back successfully. "Honey," I'd tell them, "the person who should be embarrassed is the one who stole from you, not you for trusting family. Trust is a virtue, not weakness. What happened was a crime, and you deserve justice." 2 years after Marcus's conviction, I spoke at the National Elder Justice Conference in Washington, D.C. Standing before hundreds of advocates nationwide, I realized how far I'd traveled from that devastating day discovering my empty bank account. I'm here, not as a victim, but as a survivor and advocate. When someone steals from an elderly person, they're trying to steal our dignity, independence, and self-worth. We cannot let that happen. I addressed the psychological damage often overlooked in favor of legal remedies. After Marcus stole from me, I didn't just lose money. I lost faith in my judgment, questioned every decision. That's what predators count on, making us doubt ourselves until we stop fighting back. After my presentation, a 78-year-old woman from Ohio approached me crying, tears of relief, not sadness. "My son has been stealing from me for 3 years. I thought I was too old and stupid to stop him. After hearing you, I know I'm not helpless. I'm going to fight back." 6 months later, she had recovered $89,000 and started her own support group. That's when I knew my battle with Marcus had created something much larger than personal justice. It had sparked a movement. 3 years after trial, I received an unexpected letter from Marcus himself, written from prison. His handwriting was shaky, his tone completely different from the arrogant man who'd stolen from me. "Aunt Maya, I know I have no right to contact you, and I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed you to know I understand now what I did. In prison, I've met inmates who talk about their grandparents with love. I realized what I did wasn't just theft. It was the worst kind of betrayal." He described his prison counseling for gambling addiction and his growing understanding of how his actions affected our entire family. I destroyed relationships that took decades to build, all for money I gambled away in weeks. The letter was genuine without his usual manipulation. He didn't ask for anything. No money, no forgiveness, no help. He simply wanted me to know he understood the magnitude of his actions. Diane and Patricia were skeptical. Maya, inmates often write letters hoping to influence parole decisions. Don't let him manipulate you again. But something felt different. The arrogance was gone, replaced by genuine accountability. After consideration, I wrote back, not to forgive, but to respond honestly. Marcus, your theft cost me more than money. It cost my sense of safety and trust. You targeted me while grieving William, mocked my age, treated me as disposable. Those wounds took years to heal. I told him about the advocacy work his crime had inspired, the victims I'd helped, the legislative changes strengthening senior protections. Your terrible choices created something positive, but that doesn't excuse what you did. His brief response, Aunt Maya, I'm glad my mistakes led to something that helps people. I know I can never undo what I did, but maybe someday I can contribute to making amends. By year 4, our elder abuse prevention program had grown beyond my wildest imagination. The Michigan Elder Justice Coalition was serving over 500 victims annually, recovering $2.3 million in stolen assets and successfully prosecuting 67 cases. Patricia had expanded her business to focus exclusively on elder abuse, hiring additional investigators and opening a second office. Maya, before your case, I was just a private investigator. Now I'm part of a movement changing how society treats elderly people. Diane joined the State Bar Association's Elder Law Committee, developing standardized training for attorneys representing elderly clients and establishing pro bono services for seniors who couldn't afford legal help. Our mentorship program paired elderly survivors with new victims, providing peer support through recovery. I worked with 2 or 3 mentees at any time, sharing practical legal advice and emotional support for the shame and self-doubt financial abuse creates. Remember, I tell them, the person who should be ashamed is the one who stole from you. Trust is a virtue, not weakness. What matters isn't how you were victimized, but how you choose to respond. The program was so successful, we received federal funding to expand nationally. Within 2 years, we had mentorship programs in 15 states, with plans for all 50 states within 5 years. My house had become Michigan's unofficial elder justice headquarters. William's old den buzzed with activity, volunteers answering phones, caseworkers meeting clients, advocates planning educational programs. In year 5, documentary filmmaker Sarah Chen approached me about telling my story as part of a larger examination of elder financial abuse in America. Her own grandmother had been victimized by a caregiver, giving her passion for exposing this hidden epidemic. Mrs. Johnson, your case is unique because you fought back and won. Most victims never recover their money or see justice. Your story proves it's possible to reclaim power and dignity after exploitation. Revisiting Marcus's betrayal was emotionally challenging, but therapeutically healing. It reminded me how far I'd traveled from the devastated woman who'd first discovered her empty bank account. Sarah interviewed dozens of people, Diane, Patricia, Jessica, Rose, other victims I'd helped, lawmakers who'd passed stronger protections. The picture that emerged showed a widespread but largely invisible crime affecting millions of seniors too ashamed to seek help. The film's most powerful moment played Marcus's recorded laughter about me, waiting to die. then immediately cut to footage of me speaking at conferences, teaching financial literacy, working with victims. The contrast was stark. The vital, engaged woman on screen clearly wasn't waiting to die. Marcus, now 4 years into his sentence, agreed to be interviewed. The man on camera was dramatically different, thinner, grayer, speaking with genuine remorse. I targeted my aunt because I thought she was weak and helpless. I was completely wrong. She was stronger, smarter, and had something I completely lacked: integrity. I destroyed my own life trying to destroy hers. Waiting to Live, Elder Financial Abuse in America, premiered at Sundance and later broadcast on PBS. The response was overwhelming. Thousands contacted authorities to report suspected abuse or seek help. The documentary's success led to White House recognition. I met with the President's Task Force on Elder Justice, presenting recommendations for strengthening federal protections. Mr. President, elder financial abuse thrives in silence and shame. We need federal legislation making it easier for victims to seek help, harder for predators to escape consequences, and more profitable for financial institutions to detect suspicious activity. The meeting resulted in the Elder Financial Protection Act, mandatory reporting for financial institutions, a national abuse database, and federal funding for victim services and prosecution. But the most meaningful recognition came from AARP's Volunteer of the Year Award. Standing before thousands of seniors at their convention, I felt the weight of representing every elderly person dismissed or discarded. 5 years ago, I was a 72-year-old widow robbed by her nephew. He thought my age made me helpless, my grief made me weak, my trust made me stupid. He was wrong on all counts. Age doesn't make us helpless. It makes us experienced. Grief doesn't make us weak. It clarifies what matters. Trust isn't stupidity, it's courage. The thunderous standing ovation was transformative. I could see audience members viewing themselves differently, not as potential victims, but as people with power to protect themselves and others. After the ceremony, dozens shared their own exploitation and recovery stories. Some had fought back, inspired by my case. Others had started community advocacy programs. All had refused to be defined by victimization. That evening in my hotel, looking out at Washington's lights, I realized Marcus's crime had created something unexpected, a movement changing how America treated its elderly citizens. Now 77, I began planning for the movement's sustainability beyond my leadership. The elder justice programs needed to outlive any individual advocate, including me. It was time to ensure the work would continue. With Diane and Patricia, I established the Maya Johnson Foundation for Elder Justice, a nonprofit dedicated to preventing senior financial exploitation and supporting victim recovery. The foundation would continue mentorship programs, financial education, and advocacy work that had grown from my battle with Marcus. I focused intensely on training younger advocates. The foundation's fellowship program brought together law students, social work graduates, and young professionals passionate about elder justice. You're not just learning about elder abuse, I told the first fellows. You're joining a movement recognizing every person's dignity regardless of age. Someday you'll be elderly too, and the protections you build today will protect you tomorrow. The most promising fellow was Maria Santos, a 28-year-old attorney whose grandfather had been victimized by a financial advisor. Maria combined fierce dedication with technological savvy invaluable for tracking modern financial crimes. Mrs. Johnson, you've shown us Individual courage can create systemic change. My goal is building on what you've started and expanding it to reach every senior who needs help. I also worked with Patricia establishing training programs for financial investigators specializing in elder abuse. The program combined traditional investigative techniques with understanding of psychological manipulation accompanying financial exploitation. The ongoing mentorship program was perhaps the most important legacy work. We trained over 200 elder abuse survivors as peer counselors, creating a support network spanning the country. These volunteers understood victims' shame, confusion, and fear because they'd experienced those emotions themselves. Program success was measured not just in dollars recovered or cases prosecuted, but in dignity and self-confidence restoration when victims realized they weren't alone or helpless. As I prepared to step back from daily foundation leadership, I reflected on how much had changed since discovering my empty bank account. Marcus's betrayal had been intended to destroy me, but instead revealed strengths I'd never known and connected me with people dedicated to protecting society's most vulnerable. Today, as I finish this story, Marcus approaches his parole hearing. He served 4 years and participated in every available rehabilitation program. His letters show genuine growth I never expected. He'll be released into a world dramatically different from when he left. The elder justice movement has created awareness, protections, and consequences that didn't exist when he decided to steal from his grieving aunt. The restitution has been fully paid. Marcus worked in prison industries, assigning all wages to repaying what he stole, plus interest. More importantly, he's contributed to national elder abuse conversations by allowing his story to be told honestly. I've decided to attend his parole hearing, not to oppose release, but to speak about his crime's impact and continued rehabilitation's importance. Justice isn't just punishment, it's accountability, healing, and preventing future harm. The advocacy work continues growing. The Maya Johnson Foundation has helped thousands of seniors protect themselves and recover from financial abuse. Legislative changes we advocated have been adopted in 37 states with federal protections significantly strengthened. But the most important change has been cultural. Society is recognizing that elderly people aren't burdens to manage or resources to exploit. They're human beings with rights, dignity, and valuable contributions. To anyone reading this who has been financially abused, you are not helpless, not stupid, and not alone. Age doesn't make you weak, it makes you experienced. Trust isn't naivety, it's courage. Being victimized doesn't define you. How you respond defines you. Marcus thought I was just waiting to die. Instead, I discovered I was beginning to live with purpose, power, and determination to ensure no elderly person faces exploitation alone. The scared woman who discovered her empty bank account transformed into a national advocate whose voice reaches millions. My lowest moment became the foundation for my greatest contribution. Every senior who's been told they don't matter, every elderly person dismissed as confused or helpless, every older adult whose family sees them as a burden rather than a blessing, this story is for you. You have value that goes far beyond your bank account. You have wisdom earned through decades of experience. You have rights that don't diminish with age, and you have the power to fight back against anyone who tries to take those things from you. The movement Marcus's cruelty accidentally created has helped thousands of seniors reclaim their dignity and financial security. We've changed laws, educated communities, and most importantly, changed how elderly people see themselves. We've proven that age is not weakness, that experience is power, and that seniors who stand together are an unstoppable force for justice. If this story resonates with you, share it. Like this post, subscribe to our channel, and join the conversation about protecting and empowering seniors. Together, we can create a world where aging is honored, not exploited. 5 years after that devastating discovery of my empty bank account, I sit in the same chair where I once felt utterly defeated, now surrounded by thank you letters from seniors across America who fought back against their own exploiters. Each letter represents a victory over the assumption that elderly people are easy targets. Each recovered dollar proves that age doesn't equal helplessness. Each successful prosecution sends a message that stealing from seniors comes with serious consequences. Marcus's parole hearing went exactly as I'd hoped. He was released, but into a world where the Maya Johnson Foundation monitors his compliance with restitution and community service requirements. He now works with a nonprofit helping other gambling addicts, and while I'll never fully trust him again, I can see he's genuinely trying to make amends. The foundation continues to grow. Maria Santos has taken over daily operations, bringing fresh energy and innovative approaches to elder advocacy. Patricia's investigation firm has trained dozens of specialists in financial elder abuse. Diane's legal training programs have educated hundreds of attorneys nationwide. But the real victory is in the culture change we've created. Seniors are no longer accepting dismissive treatment from younger family members. Financial institutions are more vigilant about protecting elderly customers. Law enforcement takes elder abuse more seriously than ever before. The mentorship program has become a powerful network of survivors helping survivors. When an 85-year-old man in Florida discovers his son has been stealing from him, he's connected with a 79-year-old woman in Oregon who successfully prosecuted her daughter for similar crimes. That peer support is invaluable in ways professional counseling can't match. Most importantly, we've changed the narrative around aging in America. Instead of seeing elderly people as burdens waiting to become victims, society is recognizing seniors as valuable community members with rights, wisdom, and power. Remember, you're never too old to fight back, and you're never too old to win. Marcus learned that lesson the hard way when he underestimated a 72-year-old retired nurse who refused to be anyone's victim. He thought my age made me weak, but it actually made me dangerous because I had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. If you're facing financial exploitation, document everything, seek professional help, and never accept that being older means being powerless. Your age is not a weakness. It's proof you're a survivor who's overcome decades of challenges. If you know an elderly person who's being exploited, speak up. Don't assume they're too confused or embarrassed to want help. Often, they're just waiting for someone to believe in their strength and support their fight for justice. If you're a younger person watching this, remember that you'll be elderly someday too. The protections and respect you help create for today's seniors will benefit you in the future. Ageism isn't just wrong, it's short-sighted. The Maya Johnson Foundation continues this work every day, but we need your help. Visit our website, volunteer your time, donate if you can, and most importantly, share stories like mine to show that seniors are not victims waiting to happen. We're forces to be reckoned with. Marcus thought he could steal my dignity along with my money. Instead, he accidentally gave me the greatest gift of my life, the discovery that my real power had nothing to do with my bank account and everything to do with my refusal to be defeated. Today, at 77, I'm stronger, more purposeful, and more alive than I was at 72. Marcus thought I was waiting to die, but I was actually waiting to truly live. Your turn starts now. Fight back, stand up, speak out, and show the world that being older doesn't mean being over. Like this video if Maya's story inspired you. Subscribe for more stories of seniors who refuse to be victims. Share this with anyone who needs to remember their own power. Because in the end, age isn't about how many years you've survived. It's about how much fight you've got left. And trust me, we've got plenty of fight left in us.